If you're watching this video, it means that the Boston Celtics beat the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 7, and Milwaukee's season is obviously over. I will actually be in TD Garden as this video goes live. That doesn't really pertain to the video, but I wanted to flex. But with Milwaukee's season officially being over, I felt like now would be a good time to talk about what's next for them. So let's do it. Before continuing on with this video, if you are new here and you have not already, please be sure to subscribe to this channel where I am posting consistent, high-quality playoff content, and go subscribe to my second channel where I'm also posting even more consistent, not so high-quality playoff content, just so I can cover all my bases. The lesser stories get covered over there. Subscription to both channels is much appreciated, especially the second, as I am approaching 100K subscribers over there. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference in how this video performs in the YouTube algorithm. With the Bucks losing, this of course means they will not be defending their 2021 championship. I point that out because I think it's interesting to talk about the future of a team that failed to live up to something that they accomplished before, because that means we do have the blueprint for where they found their success. Now let me be the first to acknowledge that the loss of Chris Middleton in this series was probably the deciding factor, being that it went to 7 games. Having your second best player definitely turns the tides of the series enough to split the difference in a couple of close games, and that wins you the series. But with that said, my biggest problem with the Bucks, and I believe the one that they need to focus on solving above all else, is not something that Chris Middleton alone can solve. And that is how simple and unimaginative Milwaukee's offense is. Now don't get me wrong, Middleton certainly adds to the dynamic of the team's offense to make it more complex, and for when Milwaukee's offense is being obnoxiously simplistic, Middleton is at least a player who can do a decent job within a simplistic offense. Isolation basketball is less frustrating when actually good ISO players are shooting the ball and not like Pat Connaughton. Where this simplistic offense got the most frustrating was in this matchup versus the Celtics, where we saw Giannis not being set up and mostly doing his work off of the dribble, and as a result he was charging into the paint and getting an offensive foul half of the time. And fucking Drew Holiday. Oh my God, does this guy shrink in the playoffs? If he does this again for another playoff run, I'm going to put him in consideration for being an all-time playoff underachiever. In 2021, he shot 10% worse from the field, 9% worse from 3, and 7% worse from the line on 11% worse true shooting in the playoffs. And excluding his last 2 games in 2022, he shot 13% worse from the field and 5% worse from 3 on 13% worse true shooting in the playoffs. Watching him try and hero ball in place of Chris Middleton has been extremely painful. Because of what the guy brings to the table as a defender and a playmaker, I would never suggest they move on from the guy, save for like some offer you can't refuse type of thing. But yeah, it's frustrating. Anyways, those two stand out in an especially simplified half-court offense because they're, of course, the players who are taking the most shots. So what can be done to solve this? Well, it's primarily internal improvements, specifically in the coaching department. Once again, I am looking at Mike Budenholzer a little bit funny because talking about this shit feels like a broken record. Go back through my channel's history and look at my criticisms of the Bucks. Every goddamn turn, the simple half-court offense is what I bitch about. From when they lost to the Raptors, to when they lost to the Heat, and when they went down 0-2 to the Nets. But it's not my constant calling out of the same thing that is maddening to me. What is maddening to me is that I was proven right with the Bucks winning the title. A more complex offense with more movement, with Giannis being utilized more like a big man than a perimeter player, resulted in the Bucks winning the championship. Every change that I had hoped to see with the Bucks happened, and it was glamorous. We saw the Bucks hoist the 2021 championship trophy as a result of these changes. But here comes 2022, and apparently a goddamn championship wasn't enough of an incentive for that to be a lesson learned, because the same fucking problem that prevented the team from winning in the past reared its ugly head. I thought we were past this, Mike. I thought we were done with the Giannis, big Giannis go offense, but here we fucking are. This is an extremely talented team that can be ran like a well-oiled machine, and we saw them do that on their way to a title, but also just sometimes they decide to run like shit. It's like the Milwaukee Bucks are a stick shift car, and sometimes they're being driven by Dale Earnhardt, and sometimes they're being driven by fucking me. And for whatever reason, Mike Budenholzer is both me and Dale Earnhardt. And I'm not a fucking redneck. That's the only race car driver that I know, I promise. And God knows I can't drive a stick shift, all right? I can't even fucking drive without getting a speeding ticket half the time anymore. But seriously, watching this great team play far below the level that I know they are capable of, for no reason other than they just aren't doing what they used to do, is fucking maddening, man. I'm cursing way too much in this video, but seriously. This was supposed to be a thing of the past, a lesson that was learned, and we could move on from. But apparently, we're right back to square one. So, the Bucks, and specifically Mike Budenholzer, need to figure their shit out there. They now have plenty of time to reflect by comparison to last year. Now, as for a move they could hypothetically make, I'm going to suggest something that I have in the past. The Bucks are the most successful that they are with Giannis at the 5 spot. For all you Brook Lopez defenders, the numbers literally back me up on that, and Mike Budenholzer's decision-making backs me up on that. However, in a very dumb move, the Milwaukee Bucks let PJ Tucker walk in this offseason, and that means that the perfect 4 for Giannis playing the 5 is no longer on the team. Instead, they go with playing him with Bobby Portis, and at that point, Giannis is barely even playing the 5. Now, Bobby is quite good in his own right, however, he is basically a 5 himself, so that really mitigates the effectiveness of that lineup. Now, they are still better than with Brook Lopez in the game, hence why Brook didn't play in the fourth quarters of the closing games of this series, but it wasn't as effective as in the past. So ideally, if there's any one player the Bucks would prioritize adding this offseason, it is a defensive-minded forward who can shoot the ball, and more specifically, a forward who is decent at defending big men. Now, at the trade deadline, I suggested a move of Brook Lopez for Maxi Kleber, and I think that's a move that would have gone through at the time. However, of course, Maxi has been Dallas's 3rd or 4th best player in the playoffs this year, so that option is no longer going to be on the table. So shout out to all the Bucks fans in the replies of that original trade video who said that would be a stupid move, even though Maxi would clearly be the perfect PJ replacement, and Brook Lopez is getting 20 minutes a game in the playoffs by comparison to Maxi Kleber's 30, not the playoffs as a whole, but in the series lately. So, you know, I'm not lying about, you know what I meant, last couple of games. Do I just reshoot the line? Nah, they know what I meant. But since that move is not an option anymore, let's talk about what kind of trade package the Bucks could scrap together, and I must warn you, it's not very good. They have Brook Lopez's contract. I would just start Bobby Portis from here on out, and when they want to go to the Giannis at 5 lineup, they can do that with Bobby on the bench. And they also have the bird rights to Jordan Nwora, so they would re-sign and trade him to another team, and he's a decent young player that has upside, so he would have some value. And they also have a buttload of second-round picks, like they could feasibly move 4 seconds in this deal, which is not nothing. And because Brook's contract is expiring, this could very well create salary relief if the player traded for is on a multi-year deal. So, it needs to be a team with a defensive forward that can use a center and wants the aforementioned assets. So, what does that give us? Well, here are some names. Jonathan Isaac of the Magic, if they have decided to give up on him with his health issues, that is easily the biggest risk-reward option because of those health issues. You'd have to take back someone else in this move for money reasons, but perhaps PJ Washington of the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets have been in desperate need of a center, and a young player in Nwora, as well as those second-round picks, would be appreciated by the Hornets. The downside is the player that you have to take back would be Mason Plumlee. No one wants Mason Plumlee, but PJ Washington would genuinely be a really good fit as that 4 because he can defend big man and he's a very good 3-point shooter. And that's actually it as far as defensive forwards go. Now, I did think of one more name that doesn't actually fit into this criteria at all, but is like interesting to me. The name there is Bojan Bogdanovic from the Jazz. He obviously is not a defensive guy, but the thought of a lineup of Drew, Allen, Middleton, Bogdanovic, and Giannis offensively is unbelievable. That said, I don't know that the asset pool that they can offer is good enough. The Jazz could probably get at least a first-round pick out of the guy. I don't know, these were just some ideas. By no means do I believe a big trade is necessary for this team because, again, as much as I was hard on them and their half-court offense, this is a team that we know can win a championship, and that hasn't changed. And Chris Middleton, again, being in this series, probably turns the tide, and we're not talking about the Bucks right now. But it is what it is. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and keep the outro music.